social media. How have you seen it?
Oh
How have you
man,
seen?
this is, I mean, this actually tags on pretty well to one of the
Yeah.
things that, like, oh my gosh, if I could control my students, there would not be a single one on social media anymore. Um,
You did a good job in our class, like making sure nobody was on their phone. I
you got
mean,
to, you got to.
yeah, how have you seen social media influence minds and the behavior of, people like in my generation? And
Um, well, here's the thing is, I would say, uh, there are very few ways that I haven't seen social media impact society and all those things. Um, I'll say a disclaimer, just to infidelity to what I've been saying so far. I recognize that I'm not 100% right on this, that there is balance, that there is all of those things. But when I look at social media, I genuinely, to my core, feel that it is in almost every way, um, deeply, deeply poisonous to human beings. I believe that human beings were not created to exist in a social media type world, in that sort of environment. I believe that it's detrimental to the development of people, and you could, or students and teenagers and things like that. Um, I believe that ever like sit down and read psychology, and there you will. I would bet, that probably you'd find at most 5% of like mental health professionals would be like, oh yeah, social media 100% all the time. You know what I mean? I think that, when you take I take a picture that I think is cute and I post it on Instagram or whatever. And then I sit and wait for validation that I am in fact cute. Um, and all of a sudden, like my personhood, and my validation and worth as a human being is literally quantifiable based on how many likes I get or followers I have or something like that. Followers who do not know me, but only know a very curated image of who I am that I now have to live up to, and maintain, in order to continue getting what I want to get from it. That's a personal validation thing that I think is extremely dangerous. Take that, set that aside. Um, Inject then that I'm also on Instagram looking at all these other people's curated lives, saying this person is living this life, or is this beautiful, or is like blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, I look at them as the most happy, the most beautiful, the most whatever, not taking seriously the fact that that is also just as fake as the picture that like I took. But now I feel bad about myself because I am not living that life. And that life is possible because I saw it on Instagram. Um, I could be that skinny or that buff or that rich or drive that car, but instead, hmm, my life is the way that it is, like type thing. Take that and put that in a box. Bullying is an entirely other thing because it used to be that like I go to school and I'm a nerd and I get the shit kicked out of me or whatever, but then I go home and it's fine. Like I leave that at school. Nowadays, that goes with you everywhere. And so if someone like bullies me, they do it all the time, and I cannot escape it. That is like a recipe for trauma and anxiety. Like that's literally the formula for that. Take that, put it in a box over here. Take the rest of it and look at like goals, agendas, things like that. If you take a survey of like what people want to be when they grew up, and I like you'll find the idea of being TikTok famous or Instagram famous is just like skyrocketing. which doesn't contribute literally anything to society except more and more depression, like all of these things. And so it's just like, it's this, to me, it seems that social media is this formula for anxiety and depression, and devaluing of human beings, and like all of those things. And so it's very difficult for me to see anything good coming out of it. Now, on the other side of that, like, I mean, this is just Instagram. TikTok's a whole other thing. But on the other side, like, you'll also see things like TikToks that are like there to, you know, encourage people and help people, and do all these things and offer advice, and all of those things are great. Like, they're fantastic, and like I like them. I wish they weren't completely surrounded by all this other poisonous stuff that you like see.
Yeah.
But I do find, if there's one thing that I could, like, if I could just seize control and like decide for everybody, I would eliminate social media as it exists, or at the very least pivot us back to a more like, hey, look, like, um, at least um, begin to come to terms with the fact that social media is, period, not period, real, period. It is fantasy. And if you cannot distinguish between that, it's extremely, extremely dangerous.
Very.
Yeah, I would honestly put social media on in the realm, like, and again, sure, I'll split the room. I put social media up there with like pornography, in terms of like, hey, this is a fantasy that will ruin your life if you get too deep into it and can't recognize the distinction between that and like reality, and particularly if you give preferential treatment to this over actual human contact, and things like that. So yeah, that's my tirade. I'm done. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll put the I'll put the mic down. All that being
Like,
said, like I said, the balance is probably the answer. It's probably somewhere in the middle, and we need to enter a dialogue to talk about, you know, how best to move forward.
yeah. Well, my thoughts on it, kind of like, I can see how it artificially creates another psyche inside of you to where it's more robotic, and
Yeah,
it's kind of, you're trying to, I don't know too much science on it, but I guess it's kind of factory producing more chemical reactions in your
yeah,
mind, make you feel good about yourself.
yeah.
So being in an
It's
artificial world ushers in, I would say it turns people away from God and spirit, because if you artificially produce your mind and create it in a way in which it turns away from the creator for its source of enjoyment, and instead it turns into all these images and falsehoods, then you have a generation of people going the wrong direction.
mhm,
And instead of learning how to relate and connect, like how you said, it's more of like, how can we create the most, how can we create the biggest fantasy for people to partake in? Like, there, I don't know if you know, like, Andrew Tate's one a big example. I don't know if you know who he's
oh
bouncing.
no.
Okay. Well, he's a very polarizing figure, and out on social media, he markets himself through that, projecting that fantasy of like an alpha male, and getting the chicks, and you'll see clips of him getting chicks here and there, or like you'll see moments of him making very good points as well. But obviously you're not seeing the full picture though. So it's
Yeah,
easy to go based off of what he's saying in these moments where he's actually showing his lifestyle being uh genuine. So some sides that you don't see in that um, can be falsehoods that suck people in because of the mystery behind it. Like, we all like mystery, and
mhm,
so it's like, if you can keep on getting people in this loop of mystery and fantasy, they're never gonna find the real thing, and they're gonna keep
yeah,
staying in that until, I don't know,
yeah,
who knows? Maybe they might find something out. Especially with like what I do on YouTube, like it's podcasting. So um I do my best to be genuine because of that. Like, I want people to
yeah,
pick me apart and like see my mind and how it works, and get feedback from people and stuff like that. So I think it's
yeah.
very important that we have that line in conversations on social media and move through those kind of
Yeah.
falsehoods. So
It's a very different medium. Yeah, it's one that's more designed towards authenticity and like authentic relationship and conversation and things like that. Yeah.